Okay, so let's talk about the Minecraft Minecon 2023 mob vote. We got the contenders all in. We got the crab, we got an armadillo, and we've even got a penguin, guys. And I'm sure this year, like all the others, this is going to be a complete bloodbath. Everyone is going to hate each other for like 5 minutes. So today, guys, I'd really like to go over each of these mob candidates and try to kind of go over rationally of which ones, the strengths and weaknesses, etc. And maybe which one is the best one to go for in the long term. And maybe try to dissuade you from the ones that I don't like. So basically, guys, I'm going to just try to influence you a little bit. Okay, so let's start with the crab. Now, this guy is going to just be popular straight off the bat, purely probably because of the crab rave meme, which is like totally fine. It's a funny thing. Some people have suggested, the crab should kind of dance to jukeboxes, kind of like parrots, which would be kind of funny. Now, something that I've actually heard a few criticisms of is that the fact that this guy spawns in exclusively in the mangrove swamp is a little bit, maybe a little bit of a bummer because, that biome isn't the most common. And, a crab is kind of like an ambient mob. So we're not really going to see this guy too much in day-to-day gameplay because mangrove swamps don't spawn too much. I understand why Mojang would do that, just to kind of fill the biome with a little bit more life. But that is kind of one of the downsides. Now, if we actually look at usability, I do think that the crab among all of the potential candidates here is basically the most useful. I think the ability to place stuff, like place blocks and stuff a little bit further, extend the reach, that's just a really, really good use, and it's kind of hard to argue against it. An important question here is how exactly is this mechanic of the crab claw actually going to like functionally work in day to day? So is it an item that we hold in our offhand? Is it something you have in your inventory? Like what exactly takes place here? Is it an item with durability, etc.? Now, I actually kind of am of the opinion that while I do like the functionality of being able to extend reach, I kind of do feel that would have made more sense as something like a potion or maybe even a beacon effect, because I'm kind of thinking having to put an item in your offhand to extend your reach might get a little bit annoying, and kind of the whole point of it would be to sort of prevent you from having to make as much scaffolding, etc. So we'll have to kind of see. That is a little bit of a risk with voting for this mob because it sounds good on paper, be able to extend reach, but it might not work exactly how we're all envisioning it. So remains to be seen. Okay, so the armadillo. Now, I actually do quite like the design of this specific mob, but I think this one could be a little bit of a contender here because I think basically anything that's got a little bit of association with the dogs or the wolves is going to be a popular kind of choice. Now, the idea of dog armor, right, or wolf armor, is kind of an interesting idea, and I think people are going to like that. And if we just looked at it as an aesthetic thing, depending on how they go with it, I've actually seen the idea that maybe the dog armor could have like trimming or something, which would be kind of interesting. And on that sense, it would be kind of nice. But the only thing I'm kind of thinking with dog armor is I feel like the idea of like defending your pets is a bit strange because we can actually compare this to other like tameable like animals and creatures mobs. For example, if you take a look at the alley, these guys actually regenerate health, and they also have a mechanic where you can't hit them with your bows, etc. So to me, it seems a little bit weird because why is it for something like a wolf? Why would we need to actually go get armor specifically to defend, to basically try to prevent the wolf from taking too much damage, when there are other examples of mobs like with horses, etc., where the health regenerates or there's actually built-in mechanics that will stop that mob from dying. So basically, I just think the wolf, like other mobs, should just have a built-in way of not dying so easily rather than us having to go get this item. Now, I do get the whole aesthetic thing, but I actually would ask you this question, is I actually think that a lot of people would rather see things like dog breeds or like variations in the skin, kind of like cats, rather than dog armor. Would you prefer to see dogs or wolves with armor, customized armor, or would you rather see them like some new different variations of wolves, like, like a husky or those types of things? Because I think a lot of people actually do want to see some attention brought to the wolves, but I think there are better ways to do it than with armor itself. Okay, let's talk about the penguin. Now, I think the penguin actually does have a really good shot purely just because the eyebrows are kind of funny. But the thing with the penguin is one of those mobs that I think, you know, over the course of Minecraft history, I think it's one of those mobs that's always been in the back of a lot of people's minds. And when we hear like suggestions and stuff, it's one of those mobs that often will come up. So I think it's just we'll have a pretty good shot just on that basis. But also I think the fact that it spawns in stony beaches or stony shores means it seems like it might be a bit more of a common mob that you'll see more often than, for example, the crab, which I think if we look at this from like an ambience perspective would probably be like a stronger candidate. But I'm going to go to the uses because that's kind of what I like to focus on here is if we actually look at the usability of the penguin, I would say across all of them, it's kind of got the weakest use. Now, making boats go faster, which is what the penguin is supposed to do, I wouldn't say that's like a bad use, but I kind of actually think that something like the dolphin, which makes you swim faster, could kind of like, you could kind of just make it do that as well. And if it did do that, then the penguin's not really got a super duper duper good use. Now, while I think the aesthetic design of the penguin would be great, and I would have no problem with the penguin actually being in the game, I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of the panda. It's one of those mobs, you know, that we've wanted for a while, but once it's actually in the game, it's a little bit forgettable, you know, beyond that. And I think another point I'd just like to make with aesthetic things is if we take a look at something like the sniffer, which was very popular just immediately as it was announced, and I think the sniffer has a really, really good design. Once it's actually added to the game, I think people are a little bit underwhelmed with how it really went. And I think we just need to be a little bit vigilant of that kind of idea that things can look good on paper, but in actual, you know, in actual reality, is that adding too much to the game? That's the question. All right, guys, so basically just summarize here. What I'm kind of getting at is I do think the rational thing to do here, the rational thing is to go for the crab. You know, maybe some of the other mobs might kind of seem a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but I do think actually, if we look at this long term, I think imagine having a slightly extended, imagine having a slightly extended reach when you're building. That actually is, you know, for the long term, you know, usefulness of the game. I think that kind of just is, you know, the standout winner here. Is the crab the best one? I'm not sure specifically, but I just think that use is just too powerful to kind of like to ignore it. The armadillo is cute and wolf armor would be kind of interesting, but I don't think when you compare it to extended block reach, I don't think it's as good. And again, if we look at the penguin, again, the penguin would be a nice mod to be added, but I think in the long term, being able to make boats sometimes go faster if there's a presence of penguin, just doesn't seem as good as universally useful as extended block reach. And like I said, it kind of does depend on how this is implemented, but I think regardless of how it's implemented, I think just being able to extend a little bit is just a really good use, guys. But obviously, guys, you know, vote for what you like. It's your choice, you know. And obviously, you're not going to listen anyway because we as a community voted for the glow squid and we will always forever have that stain, you know, on our history. So, yeah, vote for what you like, guys. And hopefully we will get, you know, kind of what we want.